This is The Hague, or as the Dutch call
This
it,
is The Hague,
Den Haag.
or as the Dutch
It's the
call it,
seat of the Dutch
Den Haag.
government
It's the
and home
seat
to
of the
both
Dutch
the International
government
Court of
and home to
Justice
both the
and the
International
International
Court of
Criminal
Justice
Court.
and the
The
International
king and
Criminal
queen
Court.
live nearby
The
and
king
work in
and
this
queen live
palace,
nearby
in
and
front
work
of
in
which
this
you can
palace.
find an equestrian
In front of
statue
which you can
of
find
William
an
I
equestrian
of
statue
Orange,
of William
and
I
maybe,
of
when
Orange.
it's cold enough,
And maybe,
the snowman.
when it's cold enough,
In the city
the
center
snowman.
sits the Binnenhof,
In the
a
city
complex
center
of
sits the
medieval
Binnenhof,
buildings where you'll
a
find both
complex of
houses of
medieval
parliament
buildings where
and
you'll
the
find
Prime
both
Minister's
houses of
office
Parliament
in this
and
little
the Prime
tower
Minister's
right
office
here.
in this little
Right
tower
next to
right
it is
here.
the Moritz House,
Right next to it
which
is the
holds
Moritz
some of the
House,
most admired
which holds
artworks
some of the
in the
most
world.
admired artworks
It's
in the
called
world.
Moritz House
It's
because it
called
was
Moritz
Johann
House
Moritz's
because
house,
it was Johann
who in the
Moritz's
17th
house,
century was
who
a
in the
governor of
17th
the Dutch
century was a
colony in
governor of
Brazil.
the Dutch colony
It
in
eventually
Brazil.
became the
It
Royal
eventually
Picture
became
Gallery,
the Royal
housing the
Picture Gallery,
collection of
housing the
Prince
collection
William
of Prince
V,
William
which
V,
included works
which
like The
included
Bull
works
by
like The
Paulus
Bull by
Potter.
Paulus Potter.
Now it's a museum in which you can immerse yourself in masterworks by Dutch and Flemish artists of the so-called Golden Age, that moment of great wealth and cultural flourishing for the Dutch Republic, when the East India Company's trade business blossomed and made some in Holland very rich. Here you can bask in the best-known works by Rembrandt and his contemporaries. See Terrell Fabricius's famous Goldfinch, and obsess over exquisite still lifes by the likes of Clara Peters. And it also holds 3 of the 36 paintings known to exist by Johannes Vermeer. Many come to the museum specifically to see one of them, which usually lives in this room and on this wall. But it's taking a 2-week sojourn to the museum's Golden Room, where it's secured behind a glass enclosure and surrounded by machinery and some of the best minds in conservation science. It's the girl with the pearl earring, of course, Vermeer's 1665 painting that you've seen emblazoned on countless notepads and tchotchkes. And yes, Scarlett Johansson pretended to be her in the film adaptation of Tracy Chevalier's novel. In another corner of the room, sitting openly on a stand, with substantially less security and fuss, is another girl with a pearl earring. This one is a high-resolution 3D print of the painting.
This one is a
Open for close inspection and selfie taking, while the real
Open
deal
for
is
close
less
inspection
accessible.
and selfie
Now,
taking,
we
while the real
understand
deal is
rationally
less
that
accessible.
one is original
Now we
and one a
understand
copy.
rationally that one
But
is
what
original
really is the
and one a
difference
copy.
between the two?
But what really
What
is
makes the one
difference
that
between
Vermeer
the two?
carefully
What
rendered
makes the
into
one that
existence
Vermeer
over
carefully
3 centuries
rendered into
ago so
existence
special,
over 3
so
centuries
worthy
ago
of
so
scrutiny and
special,
investment,
so
and the
worthy
other
of
not?
scrutiny and
In a
investment,
world where
and the
flat
other not?
images
In
seem
a
to
world
reign
where flat
supreme,
images
does it
seem to
matter what
reign
lies
supreme?
beneath the
Does
surface
it matter
or what
lies
residues of
beneath the
history are
surface?
carried with
Or
it?
what residues
To
of
figure out
history
what
are
really
carried
does
with
lie
it?
beneath the
To
surface,
figure out what
the
really
Morris House
does
has
lie
embarked
beneath
on
the
an
surface.
intensive
The
research
Morris House has
project with a
embarked on
team
an
of
intensive
internationally
research project
recognized
with a team of
specialists.
internationally
They're collecting a
recognized
massive amount of
specialists.
data that will be
They're collecting
processed,
a massive
visualized, and
amount of data that will
analyzed
be
in the
processed,
coming months and
visualized, and
years.
analyzed in
The
the coming
painting is in
months
good
and years.
condition, so why
The
are they
painting is
doing
in
it?
good condition,
24
so
hours
why
a
are they
day,
doing it?
7 days a week, to find
24
out
hours
as
a
much as
day,
we
7
can about
days
the
a week to
materials
find out
that
as much as
Vermeer
we can
used,
about
where they might
the
have come
materials
from in
that
the
Vermeer
world,
used,
his techniques,
where they might have
how
come
did he
from in
start
the
painting
world,
her?
his
What were the
techniques,
first layers he
how did he
applied?
start painting
How did he
her,
build up the
how,
different colors?
What were the first
One of
layers
our
he
other
applied, how
questions
did he
is, what did
build
the
up the
painting
different
look like
colors?
originally,
One
and
of
how
our
has
other
it
questions
changed?
is,
And what can we find
what did the
out with
painting
the
look like
latest
originally
scientific
and how has it
techniques that are
changed?
available?
And
Because we're
what can we
using
find out with the
state-of-the-art
latest
techniques
scientific
that fall
techniques
into
that are
several
available?
different
Because we're
categories:
using
scanning
state-of-the-art
techniques, microscopy,
that
color
fall into
gloss
several
topography
different categories,
scanners, and
scanning
infrared
techniques,
techniques. So with all of
microscopy,
these complementary
color gloss
scientific
topography
examinations,
scanners,
we hope
and
to find
infrared
out all we
techniques. So with
can
all of these
about the girl with the pearl
complementary,
earring.
scientific examinations,
A
we
lot
hope
has
to find out
changed
all
in
we can
conservation
about the girl with the
science
pearl
since the
earring.
A
painting
lot
was
has
restored
changed
in
in conservation
1994.
science since the painting
And these
was
current
restored
studies
in
don't
1994.
actually
And
involve
these
touching the
current studies
painting
don't
at all.
actually involve
We
touching
develop
the painting
basically
at all.
non-destructive
We
tools
develop
to analyze
basically non-destructive
Painting is layered, made up
tools
of
to
different
analyze
layers.
artwork.
And
Painting
OCT is a
layered,
system that
made
helps
up of
us
different layers,
understand
and
the
OCT is a
substructure of a
system that
painting,
helps us
the
understand
layers that lie below the surface
substructure
of the painting.
of a painting,
Now, the 3D
the
reproduction
layers
is
that
very
lie
faithful when
below
it comes to
the surface
replicating
of
the
the painting.
texture of the
Now, the
surface
3D
of the original
reproduction
painting.
is very faithful
But it
when
comes out of
to
the printer
replicating
in
the
layers,
texture of the
and the very
surface of
last
the
layer
original
is
painting.
color.
But it
And
comes out
that's
of the
why
printer
you
in
don't
layers,
get the
and
kind
the
of
very
depth
last
and
layer is
liveliness
color.
that you do from
And
an oil
that's
painting.
why
Because
you
oil
don't
paint
get the
is
kind of
partly
depth and
transparent.
liveliness that you do
So
from an
it's
oil
that play of
painting.
light on
Because
the
oil
layers that makes
paint
it
is
really
partly
come alive
transparent.
and glow.
So it's that play of
And
light
it's that
on the
glow
layers
that has drawn
that
people people to the real girl since the painting entered the Moritz House collection in 1903. When Vermeer was alive, he was by no means the household name he is now. He had a following, but went under-recognized recognized for centuries, and was even nicknamed the Sphinx of Delft, the town not far from The Hague, where Vermeer was from. We know relatively little about this artist, and how he was able to render such luminous pictures of profound clarity and calm. There's something very mysterious about how Vermeer built up his paint, and how he achieved that incredible play of light, and how he got that one dot on the pearl just right, so that it looks like it's a real pearl, even though it probably wasn't. One way to better understand how Vermeer achieved that astounding play of light is by looking at how exactly he laid down these minimal amounts of material through near-infrared imaging.
A lot of our
techniques are based on either the transmission of light, either the absorbance and re-emission of light, or the reflectance of light off the object. So today what you saw was the transmission, measuring the transmission of light to the painted canvas. And in areas where the paint is thick, less light comes through. In areas where it's thin,
sometimes you can
more.
see shadows
and sometimes you can see shadows and features that are buried in the paint that are important to understand the painterly process.
From samples taken during the 1994 restoration, we learned that the background didn't used to be the black or grayish color it reads as now.
It was originally a dark enamel-like green made up of a base layer of black paint with a glaze of blue and yellow pigments over top that had degraded over time. All paintings are degrading, and we want to understand how fast these things are going, right? What is the kinetics of these degradation processes? Along with color shifts, the degradation process of the painting has involved cracking. Parts of a painting structure
long after they're painted,
and change
if
long after they're painted. And if paintings are kept in a stable environment with stable temperature and stable climate, then we minimize those kind of movements. But these are changes that happen within the painting that we are not really able to turn back time and make them less prominent. It's something that we learn to accept about old paintings. And it's a sign of their age that is in some ways attractive and shows that they have a long history.
And what draws
this age is part of what differentiates the original from the print, and what draws crowds to see it in person. Theorist Walter Benjamin called that aspect of a work that doesn't transfer over reproduction its aura, or its singular presence in time and space. And seen outside of its substantial frame, the humble objectness of the painting becomes more apparent. That this is not just an image, not flat, but a physical structure with depth. The result of a human person daubing it delicately with fine brushes and rare pigments, building up those surface effects over time. A machine didn't make this object, a person did. And it's that feeling of direct connection with a person from times long past. That's part of what makes the experience of an original so moving. But it's also about the girl herself. The Moritz house is full of faces looking out at you from the past.
Almost everyone in the museum refers to the girl as her. She is
lovingly
the
worried over
only
by
painting
humans
here
who
that
came
is referred
before.
to,
What
as if
is it
she's a
about
real
this
person.
face in particular?
Because this is not
Almost
truly
everyone
a
in the
portrait,
museum
but a
refers
tronie,
to the
a
girl
type
as
or
her.
character or
She is the only
idealization,
painting here
as
that is
other
referred
artists
to
like
as if she is a
Rembrandt
real
also made
person.
at the time and can
And
be
that's
seen
funny,
in these galleries.
because this is not truly
young
a
Dutch
portrait,
girl of
but a
Vermeer's
tronie,
time
a
would
type
not
or
have worn an
character or
exotic
idealization,
turban, such as the one
as
she's
other
wearing.
artists like
The
Rembrandt
pearl of
also
her
made at
earring
the time,
is too
and can be
impossibly
seen in
large to
these
be
galleries.
genuine.
A young
Vermeer
Dutch girl
likely
of
had someone
Vermeer's
sit for
time
the
would
work,
not have
but
worn an
she's in
exotic
costume,
turban
not
such as the
given a
one
name.
she's wearing.
The dark
The pearl of her
background leaves
earring
no
is
context
too
clues
impossibly
and
large
allows
to be
her
genuine.
float freely in
Vermeer
space
likely
and
had
time,
someone sit for
which
the work,
leaves us with
but
plenty
she's
of
in
room
costume,
for
not given a
interpretation
name.
and conjecture
The dark
and
background leaves
imagination.
no context
There's
clues
something so
and allows her to
alive
float
about her
freely
that
in
it
space and time,
becomes more
which
than a
leaves us with
painting,
plenty
more
of
than an
room
object.
for
It's
interpretation
really something
and conjecture
that you live
and
with
imagination.
and that you want to refer
There's
to as someone
something
you
so
know.
alive
Although the
about her
print isn't
that it becomes
identical to
more
the
than a
real
painting
painting, it
and
still
more than
has
an
value.
object.
It makes
It's
you
really
look
something
harder,
that you live
closer.
with and that you want to refer
differences
to
can
as
you
someone you
identify?
know. Although
There's
the
no
print
such
isn't
thing as
identical to the
replacing
real
the original,
painting,
of course.
it still has value. It makes you look harder, closer.
We're interested in
what differences
making
can you
reproductions
identify?
better. Let's
There's
not
no
forget,
such
art is
thing
about
as replacing
sharing,
the
right? Sharing
original,
with
of
the rest
course.
of the world,
But we're interested
whether it's,
in making
on your
reproductions
mobile phone
better.
or
Let's
in a
not
bus
forget
stop
art is
somewhere,
about
or,
sharing, right? sharing with the rest of the
wherever.
world,
But
whether it's
all
on your
these
mobile
reproductions,
phone
they fail
or in a
to
bus stop
reproduce
somewhere
a number of
or in a book
important
or wherever.
properties, such as
But all
gloss,
these reproductions, they
transparency,
fail to
topography
reproduce
of
a
the
number
surface,
of
right?
important
These are really
properties
important
such as gloss,
things for
transparency,
a painter like
topography
Vermeer.
of the surface.
So getting
These are really important things
optical
also for a
properties
painter
right,
like Vermeer. So
requires
getting
us
these
to
optical
take,
properties right
good
requires
measurements
us
of
to
the
take good measurements of the transparency of the gloss of the paint surface in order to make these reproductions
Perhaps in the
better.
future, using
Perhaps in
all
the
of the information we've
future,
gathered using these
using
different
all of the
techniques,
information we've gathered using these different techniques,
reconstruction that
we could
shows
think
her
about making a
closer
3D
to how she
reconstruction
may have looked
that shows
when she
her
left Vermeer's
closer to
studio.
how she may
But
have looked
obviously a
when she
3D
left
print will never
Vermeer's
take the
studio.
place of the real
But
girl.
obviously, a
But will
3D
this always be
print
the
will never
case?
take the place
With
of the
evolving
real girl.
technology, there may
But will
come a
this
time
always
when
be
the
the
copy
case?
comes closer
With
to
evolving
matching the
technology,
magic of the
there
original.
may come a time when the
Regardless,
copy comes
reproductions
closer
serve
to
and will
matching the
continue
magic
to
of the
serve
original.
an important
Regardless,
role in allowing more
reproductions
to see the girl
serve and
than
will
the lucky
continue to
people who
serve
can
an
make it to
important
this
role in
special
allowing
place.
more to see the girl
And to have an
than the lucky
experience so
people
intimate
who
you
can
might
make it
even
to this
refer
special
to an
place.
object as you
And to
would
have
a
an
friend.
experience so intimate,
The original
you
and
might
its
even
copies
refer to
call
an
us to look
object
at the
as you would a
world more
friend.
closely,
The
to
original
ask
and its
questions about
copies
what lies
call
beneath
us
the
to look at the
surface
world
and
more
what histories
closely,
might be
to ask
concealed.
questions
As
about
we
what
look at
lies
her
beneath the
and
surface
she looks out at us,
and what histories
we're
might be
invited to
concealed.
consider how it
As
is
we look
that
at
we
her
connect
and
with
she
the
looks out
people
at
and
us,
things
we're
and
invited to
ideas of
consider
the
how it
past
is that we
and
connect with
ponder
the people
nature
and
of
things
images
and
and
ideas
of
of the
reproduction
past,
itself,
and ponder
in a
the
world
nature
that
of
is
images
increasingly
and of
and
reproduction
overwhelmingly
itself
full of
in a
them.
world that is increasingly and overwhelmingly full of them.